clicking the power button, opening up whatever Pokemon game you so choose, hearing those opening notes, seeing the classic Game Freak logo slowly fade in. It's a feeling that so many of us are all too familiar with, but no matter which console or Pokemon game it is, we all share the same desire to momentarily escape the real world, the real responsibilities of life. Pokemon, after all, sucks you into a world where your fantasies become experiences. But really, is that true? Looking just a bit deeper, you'll notice that for a world where you capture deity-powered creatures, a world where a single child somehow can save an entire universe, a world that seems so far detached from reality, there are genuine nuggets of wisdom in places that may seem so insignificant. But really, they show just how alive and alike our two universes are. One recurring theme in Pokemon has been morality. Evil organizations abound, grown adults picking on children for a fight, and even you, the supposed good guy, somewhat play the part yourself. Many people may trace the origins of Pokemon morality to Black and White, games whose entire plot questions the very fundamentals of Pokemon. But really, I think we can go way, way back, all the way back to Generation 2. I want to take a little stroll through the Johto region and discuss the myriad of ways Pokemon Gold and Silver subtly challenge your morals. If you end up enjoying this video and want to see more stuff like this, make sure to subscribe. It helps out a lot. Anyway, let's dive into the moral-rich world of Pokemon Gold and Silver. Starting things off at the very beginning of the game, we have some basic, very subtle features that don't appear to be very morally compromising at first, but carry some slight undertones upon closer inspection. You see, Generation 2 featured a ton of brand new additions, such as breeding, shinies, and new types. Obviously, compared to Gen 1, the Johto games felt like a massive leap in quality and immersion. The world felt so much more alive. Two features in particular that stood out are the revamped friendship and gender mechanics. In the original Red and Blue, Pokemon were all genderless, with the exception of Nidoran, who were kind of like a proto-attempt at gender. It made perfect sense for them to add gender to Pokemon since how else could they reproduce? Unfortunately, Game Freak came up with a really odd and somewhat discriminatory way to determine a Pokemon's gender. Have you ever heard of the myth that female Pokemon are weaker than male Pokemon in battle? That sounds really outlandish, but it's kind of true in Gen 2. This table shows how attack DVs, or basically Gens 2 IVs, determined gender. As you can see, for Pokemon with a gender ratio, Pokemon that have the lower end of attack DVs will be female, while Pokemon with the upper end will be male. I don't know how intentional this was, or if Game Freak just randomly chose attack as the determiner stat, but that essentially means that, yes, a female Pokemon will have worse physical attack than a male counterpart. I feel like this one's less morally significant since most casual players probably don't even know this, but I still think it's worth pointing out. And for the few who do know about this, you've essentially outed yourself as not only a male Pokemon supremacist, but also someone who values raw power over individual character. But friendship, on the other hand, is 100% a moral decision you can make. Game Freak clearly had the idea of Pokemon abuse in mind, as this exact generation introduced the moves Return and Frustration, moves that increase in power with higher or lower friendship respectively. Interestingly, the only way to obtain these TMs is through the Goldenrod department store, where a clerk will evaluate your Pokemon's friendship and accordingly give you the more fitting move. In Gen 1, friendship had a minimal role, with its only significance being minor rewards in yellow. However, Generation 2 decided to broaden things further, with the concept of abuse being not only present, but straight up rewarded through a TM. It's obviously encouraged to be friendly to your Pokemon since doing so has more benefits, but still, this revamped friendship mechanic allows you to choose the trainer you want to be. A loving person who sees Pokemon as friends, or a hateful person who shoves bitter herbs down. In the remakes, this friendship divide is even more prominent, as throughout the entire game, your Pokémon unconditionally follows you, no matter how you treat it. Whether that be out of pure loyalty and love, or compliance out of fear, well, the answer is right behind your back. Another aspect of morality in the Johto games lies in the many side quests or interactions that you'll face throughout your journey, which you may not have thought much of. In fact, pretty much as soon as you begin the game, you're tasked, or forced, to help out Professor Elm by delivering an egg to him. Of course, after obtaining just a single badge, he decides it's a great idea to just hand over the apparently first egg ever discovered to you, a 10-year-old kid. And because of this incredibly blind and pretty foolish trust on Elm's part, the fate of this lone egg and the understanding of Pokémon as a whole is completely in your hands. Just like a scientist discovering a new species, or a breakthrough in mathematics, or a discovery in an intricate crime case, whatever happens next is up to you, and only you. You can choose to follow through with your promise and show Togepi to Professor Elm. You could simply release Togepi after it hatches, or you could use it as an arsenal for your team to dominate the game. I mean, if you think about it, who's to stop you? Who is gonna know? Depending on your desires and personal values, you can choose to either assist in a major Pokémon scientific breakthrough, or withhold everything for yourself, forever hindering the progress of every Pokémon researcher in the world. So, for those who play Pokémon Gold and Silver, I have to ask, are you a pioneer of science, or a fiendish gatekeeper of knowledge and power? This sort of honor system is found yet again in two separate instances, the first right after Goldenrod and the second in Cianwood City. I'm sure you all know about Kenya the Spearow, and most of you probably snag it in every single playthrough. I mean, I can't blame you. Fearow with boosted EXP? That's a steal, literally. This Spearow, after all, was never supposed to be yours to begin with. The security guard explicitly states that it's holding a piece of mail, meant as a reply letter to his friend on Route 31. So there's no way you can misunderstand him. The only explanation is that you're a cold-hearted thief. However, what's even more insane is in Cianwood City. One of the houses contains a seemingly frightened person. By talking to him, he states that all of his Pokémon were stolen by none other than your rival. Every Pokémon, except for one, a Shuckle. You're tasked with keeping it safe for just one day and then return it back to him. Except, the game never forces you to do so. You can use it on your team throughout the rest of the playthrough, use it for breeding, or even straight up release it, never opting to go back to his house or even look at it ever again. Funnily, if you go back to his house a day later, you're given the option to give Shuckle back or not. By saying no, he'll call you a thief, but that's it. No repercussions, no resistance from him. The only thing left in the air is the scent of guilt. That is, if a creature like you even has the capacity to smell it. But moving on from the theme of thievery, going back to the path to the second gym, we see the introduction of yet another moral dilemma. Right in front of Union Cave, a suspicious individual tries selling you a delicious Slowpoke tail for the cheap price of 1 million Pokédollars. Obviously, you literally can't buy the item, even if you wanted to. At least, not yet. Just a bit later, the mysterious tail-chopping antics of Slowpoke is eventually revealed to be the work of Team Rocket, who are harvesting their tails for easy profits. And by the time you reach Mahogany Town, I guess the market for Slowpoke tails crashed hard, because they're for sale at a measly 9,800 Pokédollars. The item serves zero purpose other than to be a waste of money, or a souvenir, but because the game continuously hints at its prestige and decadence, most players will feel compelled against their will to buy at least one. I feel like this small subplot signals two messages that parallel our world. One exposing the blatant cruelty of other sentient beings and commoditization of Pokémon parts for profit, kind of like shark fin or ivory harvesting. and another displaying FOMO, the fear of missing out, a common but deadly tactic in marketing. Again, the game constantly, almost annoyingly, nags you about the wonders of Slowpoke tails, as if it's some sort of rite of passage, a secret that everybody's in on, except for you. You may know that buying one is supporting animal cruelty, but by the time you're given access to buying some, that nugget has already been long planted into your head, and thus you have no choice but to be another lost soul to the endless human desire to be a part of the crowd. But Team Rocket's animal cruelty doesn't stop there. North of Mahogany is the Lake of Rage, a place that's all the rage in town because of a strange phenomenon going on. Chatting among the locals, you'll hear rumors of Magikarp suddenly evolving into Gyarados far earlier than they should. Upon inspection, you'll soon realize that this is yet again the work of Team Rocket. While Slowpoke were being harmed with the intention of monetary profits, these Magikarp are being prematurely evolved, most likely as an easy shortcut for world domination, as an army of Gyarados would easily be able to destroy most of Johto, or at the very least make way for the capture of Lugia. But where this falls onto the player is the most notable feature of the lake, the single shiny Gyarados in the center. The game continuously hints at the existence of altered colored Pokémon. You've never seen it yourself, so you assume it's some sort of spectacle for only the best of trainers. So when you encounter it, you have no choice but to catch it. You'll get a free shiny of a powerful Pokémon. But thinking through it a little bit more, after understanding the torture it and many other Magikarp endured, by capturing it and using it in battle, are you really the hero, or just the scavenger of an organization's horrific abuse? For these last two examples, I'm going to slightly zoom out from the Generation 2 games and take a look at the remakes, Heart Gold and Soul Silver. These games expanded on the morality in the Johto games in one common way: power. Let's talk about arguably the biggest upgrade in these games from the originals, the Safari Zone. In every single generation that it's been present, the Safari Zone has been a beloved attraction for players. It's where you can catch some of the rarest and most powerful Pokémon in the game, like Tauros, Exeggutor, and Dragonite. In Gold and Silver, the Safari Zone is not present, likely due to storage constraints. But of course, in the Gen 4 remakes, with much more space available, the Safari Zone was reintroduced. However, along with making a few Johto Pokémon actually reasonably obtainable, there was also a new mechanic to spice things up. When you first arrive, the Warden, Baoba, assigns you two missions. The first is to capture a Geodude, and the second is to catch a Sandshrew. While this may seem like a harmless test for the Safari Zone's biodiversity, its true purpose is to test out the customizable habitats. You see, the Johto Safari Zone isn't just any ordinary wildlife reserve. No, it's not even about housing Pokémon that are vulnerable. It's a profit generator with inquisitive trainers as its target. Want to catch a rare Pokémon? You're going to have to completely alter the local ecosystem just to find it. This is made even more seedy during the post-game, where continuously using the Safari Zone unlocks Pokémon from other regions, likely as a way to incentivize you continuing to operate this money sink. To top it all off, you're made the Safari Zone owner after only completing the two challenges I mentioned earlier, meaning that any potential outcry from the public will fall into your hands, not the Warden's, because you've fallen into his trap, his dirty scheme, and now it's up to you to decide if nature is really yours to control, if money overrides well-being, or to never step foot again and let it all burn. Finally, I want to talk about possibly the most thought-inducing event that Pokémon has ever done, the Synjo Ruins. This is a very enigmatic place, not marked on any known map, only ever accessible in Heart Gold and Soul Silver, and only under one nearly impossible condition, having an Arceus in your party, the god of the Pokemon universe, who is only obtainable through a few incredibly limited events. But through the power of dedication, or just an action replay, you can be transported to this temple. Inside, you're given the choice between three forces: time, space, and distortion to bring into the Johto region, and for you to harness the power of. As Arceus channels its power into you for just a brief moment, you become the deity of the Pokemon universe. The power to shape or crumple the borders of reality is in your hands. And after making your choice, the infamous cutscene plays. Snippets of reality fade in and out as bits of unknown try to remind you that you're still in just a fictional world. But no, you're not. As pixelated images of the sky descend into nature, cities, roads, and the very fundamental atoms that shape our universe, the message becomes crystal clear. When the final image of the planet we all call home appears, you realize that Pokemon and reality are one and the same. There is something so different between the two universes, yet at the same time, so many things remain constant. And what Arceus and every other event here ultimately wants to scream to you is that this world, this life, this reality is all yours. So why on earth are you still lying to yourself?